everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Podcast on Soul Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of other favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, which is the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire TV pod at darkfusionsystems.com. Links in the description of the podcast below. Go to millionpodcast.com. There are podcasts all across the musical spectrum, all across the world in many different categories. We know we're on a number of them, but we're number 7 on metal. Yeah, it's the best number 7 in metal podcasts out there right now. That's great, but I want a number 1 slot in that. Metalcore, we still holding it down. We are considered the number 1 metalcore podcast out there, according to millionpodcast.com. We're going to keep that title. We're going to keep growing and keep getting on more lists as well. But we're going to hold down the Metalcore fort on this one. With our feature presentation, we have Ionei from the Australian metalcore band Ocean Sleeper on the podcast today. The band's releasing their brand new album, Peace When I'm Dead, which comes out on August 21st, 2026. Oh, man. I think I might have the hiccups here. Not only do we go into the particulars and the beauty of where this album comes from their ability to self-produce and really hone in on every little aspect that is there. We also talk about the writing process behind the entirety of this album and how sometimes a grab out of the hat style actually worked. And then let's dive into some of the songs and have a blast with it. Plus, wait till you hear what we say about my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. You missed about 6 great minutes of conversation before we actually hit the record button about this band coming and playing over here in my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin last year, and hopefully they can make it back sometime soon, maybe this year. You never know. It's still 2026. There's still a great amount of time. But when it comes to metalcore, we know that Australia is going to be one of those places where whatever they're producing is going to slap. It is going to hit and it is going to be of great quality. This band is a part of all of that with their brand new album, Peace When I'm Dead, coming out on August 21st, 2026. If you're in the US, you can catch them on tour with Never Tell. If you're in Europe in 2027, you can catch them on tour with Catch Your Breath even, who, oddly enough, will have an episode coming out on the podcast literally right after this one. So, weird foreshadowing. Yeah. But it's a great time to get into this band right now, because if you're not, we're going to make that so. So please welcome Ionei from Ocean Sleeper, the podcast. Ionei, welcome to Chord Progression Podcast.
What is up? Thank you so much for having me, man. Stoked to be here.
Man, thanks for being on. How's everything going in your world today as we are getting ever closer to the release of, what is this, full album number 2 for you guys?
Yeah, number 2. It's been like, I think 7 years between records. So we feel pretty bad about that for our fans, just because I feel like we owe them this one. But yeah, not a lot going on today. Just work and just vibing, really. Just getting prepared for this album to be launched.
Work and vibing, prepare for this album to be launched. But with that time frame being so far in between, I'll say full length releases, but if I'm looking at my note sheet, I'm looking at 2 EPs that were released within that time too. So it's not like people have not been getting new Ocean Sleeper music. They've been getting the music. It's just them been getting that full length LP that I know a lot of metal fans absolutely love. However, the growth of the band has still been continuous because of those EPs in between these full album releases.
Straight up. Yeah. It was like, I don't know. Everyone had to deal with the same thing when COVID happened, but our album came out in 2019. So it was like album came out and then couldn't do anything. So that was mad. So we pretty much went back to the drawing board and we're like, all right, sick. What's something we can do remote if we can't see each other and will consistently keep us rolling? And we decided on 2 EPs. And like, fortunately enough for us, both of them went really well. One went better than, each song just kept on going better and better. Yeah, and it was sick. It was a good choice. Even though we didn't do an album, still stoked as.
I'm kind of hard pressed to think that you would be, thinking, oh, we should have done an album that time because of not only the way the success of those 2 EPs hit and the way the band has grown off of those 2 EPs. But again, I've been speaking with other artists a lot on this podcast. I've been doing this for 7.5 years. When we think about EPs, we think about a collection of songs that kind of stay within a specific moment or a specific sound, a specific time frame that you're trying to explore. But with an LP, you're able to explore a lot more of where that sound is going to go, because you have, instead of 4 or 5 songs, you have maybe 10, maybe 11. Some bands end up putting 15 songs on their album as well. You're able to explore so much more of where the sound, not only for this current band, whatever band you're talking about, or for Ocean Sleeper is, but where that sound is really going to go in the future. So with Peace When I'm Dead comes out, people are going to get a chance to really see not only where Ocean Sleeper lives as a band in terms of sound, but how much further that sound can expand to the current state of where we are in 2026.
Yeah, straight up. It's actually really interesting because like during the process of creating this album, like I definitely went through like one day or like maybe 2 days of going down this rabbit hole with Stan, our other guitarist, on whether the record should actually be 2 records. And we do more songs. And I ended up having a 2 or 3 hour phone call with a friend of mine just talking about whether we should do it or not. And it was crazy. There was a big dilemma, just because I suppose with an album you have the freedom to do whatever, and sometimes that means doing more songs and splitting them up. But luckily for us, we decided for it to be its own single album. There's a bunch of songs that didn't make the cut that would have made a second album, but yeah, we don't talk about those ones.
And if for some reason you ever want to come out with those, there could always be a deluxe version that comes out within like 9 or 10 months or something. And that's if people are not only really enjoying what Peace When I'm Dead brought, but they want to see what else was out there from these different recording sessions. So the possibility is still there, but that depends upon, again, just how you guys want to do it, but also how the fans are vibing with the entire record as well.
Straight up. We really wanted to be prepared in case we want to do that deluxe. That's like totally a big thing that was present in our minds, was like, you either do 2 records and write 2 records simultaneously and you have one come after the other, or you just write the 1 record and then you're prepared for the deluxe. We already have plans on what we'd do if we'd do the deluxe, but it depends on how the record lands.
Well, we'll see how that whole entire record lands. But the other piece that is interesting too with having those songs, even if they never actually see the full light of day to the people around the world, it's you and the rest of the guys have these songs that you know what they are. You've been able to listen to them, have them all ready to go. And when it comes to writing anything after that, if you're looking for an inspiration, if you're looking for something where it's, what were we thinking during this time to see potentially where the sound could go? Maybe you go back to one of those songs and there's a piece, like a specific riff, or there's a specific vocal pattern that sounds interesting, and you get inspired to do something on it now in, like, let's say 2028, 2029, that really works out for where you're going for, but just wasn't possible for 2025, 2026, just based on the mindset that you were at during that time. It's quite possible. So it could still be used as something to create even better music, just maybe wasn't ready for the time yet. Maybe it just needed to be recorded in this specific capacity for you to go back to later and make it even better.
Straight up. That ability to go back and listen to stuff you've already worked on like a year ago or longer or whatever is amazing, because you can just look at it with brand new eyes and be like, all right, sick, this part's sick, let's rewrite a whole song around it, and it turns out awesome, which is actually kind of the process we did with Peace When I'm Dead. I think the first song I wrote for that I wrote in maybe 2025, so like a long time ago. And then when we had a big writing block in the start of 25, then we had another writing block in the middle of 2025, then we came back from Europe last year, and I was like, we don't have a record, like we don't have enough songs on here that I'm like, sick, this is the best thing we can give our fan base, since we haven't given them a record in a long time. We need it to be something that's going to be really impactful and something people can go back and listen to and be like, sick, this is all killer, no filler sort of thing. And then we wrote another 3 songs at the start of this year. So yeah, it's the blessing of self-producing is the fact that you can go back and like sit on something and then rework it and sit on something and rework it. And that's been our process almost through the entire band, being able to self-produce and reflect on everything to the point where we can go, all right, we've gotten everything we can get out of this song, let's move on to the next one.
That is a blessing because there's not many artists that say they can have that ability to wait that long in terms of, putting out a full release and continue to work on it to make it the best as possible and still have it be that connected with the fans and still have it feel like it's the best work they've ever done. Because most bands, they're signed to record deals, they're signed to record labels, they're working with other people that are creating and producing the music with them as well and mixing it. And there's timetables, there's time frames, there's deadlines that have to be met. And that also puts it into some different perspective. It's very rare to see a band with Bad Omens, where after Death of Peace of Mind popped off in 2022, we've gotten a couple of singles since then, and it's been continually put out there from Noah Sebastian that he's like, these songs just don't feel like they are the best possible that they could be, but because of the massive growth they have and the massive amount of essential power they have right now, they have that ability. Most artists don't, but you guys still do from that self-production standpoint to where you can figure out what you want to do with this, how you want to do this, and if you're going to get the most out of the song. And if it comes time where, hey, we're 3 years or 4 years after this full release and people are waiting for another one, are they going to want to get a release that is maybe subpar, or are they going to want to wait a little bit to get something that's going to be truly immaculate? And almost every single fan is going to pick the latter over the former.
Yeah, exactly. I really, really appreciate and admire that with Bad Omens, because it takes a lot of courage as an artist to be like, I'm not going to adhere to doing this in this certain time frame that I'm told I have to do, which is really, really cool of them to be able to do that. And it means that they care about the music more than anything else. They're not just trying to churn out albums to meet some deadline or to appease someone at a label. They're like, all right, we're going to take our time and make the right stuff for our fan base, which I think is really cool. Yeah.
Well, even if you go back and you think about when music was really first being recorded like that and marketed to a mass audience, if you go back to the 50s, in 1950s, I should say, look at Elvis Presley records, there were new albums being churned out every couple of months. And yeah, there are songs that are classics from him, but there are so many songs that are just filler songs or songs that are covers or songs that have been created by other people that he just sang on. And there's so many others that were put out there. So there's this core of the music that stands out, but there's so much more in the back end that end up just being slop that really no one ever talks about anymore. In today's day and age, because that music lives on forever, especially through the streaming aspect of the internet delivery of music, you want to make sure that it is of the highest quality possible. Because if it's not, it is going to stick and stay and be a standout piece that most artists don't necessarily want to have when it comes to their discography in the end.
Straight up. Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, back in the day, people would cut records direct to vinyl as they're recording it. They'd perform it, record it, cut to vinyl. That's it. It's out. Whereas now we can sit and obsess over every little thing, which is fun. Yeah, which is fun. And it can be a bit send you a bit crazy sometimes.
I mean, it's a trade-off because if you obsess over every little thing, then it takes a long time for music to get out. But when we have artists that obsess over every little detail and every little aspect, we sometimes can find the most immaculate pieces of music possible just based on the ideas that come out, the different types of experimentation that can come out. Because if you're just constantly pumping out the same stuff over and over again, then the sound somewhat stagnates and then we're getting the same stuff over and over and over again. It's continually happening with stuff like pop music all the time. And that's why when you listen to pop music, it's like the transition from what's really popular to what's next. It takes a good amount of time to get there. But lately, especially when it comes to the rock and metal side of things, we're seeing artists from all over the place doing massively different things, hitting on every single year. I mean, you go back to when the pandemic dropped. I'm going back to 2020. It was German party metal when Electric Callboy released Hypa Hypa that everyone got into it. Then 2021 hits and everyone's losing their minds for deathcore with Sarge Prevail and Lorna Shore. And then they're going absolute bonkers for Spirit Box. 2022, here comes Bad Omens. 2023, right from the get-go, it was, what is this Sleep Token thing? And it's getting huge. 2024, here comes Knocked Frickin' Loose. Yeah, and all throughout the entire time of it too, Bring Me the Horizon's always there. So it's
it's crazy.
So it's just you're constantly seeing, especially in rock and metal, when bands obsess over exactly what they're doing, and basically where they can take it, you're seeing so much greatness happen. You're seeing so many different unique pieces happen, and you're seeing these genres and the styles completely evolve quickly over the course of time. And artists can completely create their own identity throughout it. It's a beautiful thing, and if we didn't have artists that were obsessing over it or artists that were constantly trying out the same things over and over again, we'd be stagnant like when people were saying rock and metal were dead back in like 2014, 2015. Screw you, Gene Simmons.
Straight up. Yeah, there's some fantastic artists now. Like, I mean, our friends in Saatchi Six, they're pushing the envelope heaps, like so heavy yet so melodic at the same time, so talented. And then Boundaries. Boundaries is insane. Like their record's ripping. There's so many good, even like Thornhill from Australia, absolutely killing it. Some like fantastic bands pushing the envelope, and they're all under this heavy music like umbrella, but they're so different. Like those three bands are so different from each other, but it's really, really cool to see where heavy music's at right now.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And it lets you guys, when it comes to Peace When I'm Dead and writing this album, explore so many other ideas and be able to be so very particular and exploratory with those nuances and really dive deep and really hone in on how far can we take this? How good can we get this? Because without that feeling of, I would say maybe sonic individualism that's being very much promoted by the music scene right now, we're like, maybe you guys wouldn't be doing some of the things you do on this album. It's a beautiful thing to have. Let's be honest with you.
It is definitely it. Yeah. I think my favorite quote, like while making this record, was one from Trent Reznor, which is, "I'll make my record sound shit if I want to," which is rad because it's your record. That's the thing. It's your record. And then like, you got to make those decisions yourself and like, decide how you push the envelope or decide how you explore, regardless of how it lands, really, because otherwise you'll just end up making safe decisions every time and have 10 or 11 songs of the same song over and over again, which I don't think is any fun for anyone.
No, if you make the same song over and over again, then you're just going to constantly be seeing the same ideas come up. You're going to be seeing the same progressions, the same patterns from the vocals. You're seeing the same melodies. And then you're going to have that one album that pops off. By the time you get to the third album of it, it's like people are going to be looking at you and saying, is that it? Like, is that all you got? Yeah. And then either you're going to end up sitting on your laurels from the first album when people really connected with that sound because it was fresh and new, or people are going to just kind of peter out because they've already heard it. And anytime something new comes out, they're like, this is just a rehash of that first album from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Which is, so interesting, challenging for artists as well, because you can get in your own head about it and try and like chase the success of something else you've done, but realistically trying something new is like funner. You usually has better results and it's more fulfilling anyway.
And hopefully as other artists too, it's like they can take a look at the differences, especially that other bands around this time have been doing and what they've been making. And especially when it comes to the difference between album to album, how that can really work, and just see the case studies. Bring Me the Horizon and Bad Omens are perfect examples of this, because I mean, every Bring Me album is completely different. And then with Bad Omens, you go from album 1 to album 2 and there's a consistency there, but there is a different flow to album number 2. Then you get Death of Peace of Mind and it is completely different, but take a look at what's happened beyond that though. So when it comes to trying to rest on, like trying to chase the success of a previous album, the problem is you can get as close as you possibly want, but it's not going to be that album. But if you try something that you really want to give a shot at and just expand your sound on it, why not? It might be better than that album. I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people that think Hybrid Theory's the best album that Linkin Park ever came out, but I thought they did it even better on Meteora, and they expanded on some other ideas too on that. So it's possible. Like, even if you think your greatest album is your like right there in front of you, doing a couple of things different and just trying something new could make it even better.
Yeah, straight up. Knock Loose last record, so sick. Great switch up, like still like the Knock Loose sound, just like turned up to 11 and really pushed the envelope. That record sounds amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite records of the last like few years, just because it's like, it's got all the aggression of a Knock Loose record, but then it's like a little bit more interesting. The mix is crazy. Like they've committed to so much stuff that's like really aggressive in your face. First track on that record is insane. It's like, just such a good record.
Oh, right. When it opens up with Thirst and you're just like, okay, what the hell is this? But this is totally knocked loose. And then it goes into I'm trying to think of that goes into Piece by Piece, and it perfectly jumps into that. And now you're wondering what could come next. And it's like, okay, here's Suffocate featuring Poppy. It's like, how is this all going to work? But then as you kept going through the album over and over again, you were constantly just thinking, this is knocked loose, but why is this like keep getting different but better? And then this year they released Hive Mind with Denzel Curry, and I was listening to that too. I'm like, this is the perfect knock loose song. And then when they transition into Denzel Curry's parts, it's like, yeah, they add a little hip hop bounce to the back of their overall instrumentation and the rhythm. But it's exactly what was needed, and it still fits the knock loose style, which is awesome.
Straight up. It's so sick. It's so sick. What a band.
What a band. But also when we think about Ocean Sleeper, we got to think what a band as well. So enough of talking about other bands. We got to talk about you guys right now, because that's the important part of this, with Peace When I'm Dead coming out on August 21st, 2026. Again, 7 years since the last full release. We've already talked about just some of the ideas and the concept. Like, really, when it came to writing this album and getting as particulars you guys did, what was the overall progression of writing this record? And what did you notice about the overall writing style that was put together from the entire band when writing this?
So one of the big pieces towards the end of doing the album was like, there's a few industrial sort of influences in the record, and like some extra songs we chopped out were more industrial and sort of pushed the envelope in that direction more. So it was a bit of a decision towards the end of the record to try and focus it in a slightly less industrial direction, just because at the time, me and Stan were listening to a bunch of like Health and a bunch of industrial bands that we'd been listening to at the start of this year. And it sort of, we definitely carried those influences on our sleeve. Ever since hearing Jeff Dunn, the guy that produced and mixed our record, he mixed the newest Health record with Drew Fulk. And ever since he showed us that record, we'd been like, this is amazing. This sounds so sick. It's so heavy, but then so cool and like melodic in other parts. Like, just so stoked on it. Yeah. So reining in the industrial influences was one. Then trying to not stray too far, I guess, from our like previous releases or previous sound was interesting. I guess part of that is like we don't really have as many upbeat songs or like any like there's no Lonely Love on this, or there's no Light in My Dark. There's none of those like poppier, happier songs, I guess, that our fans know us for, which is interesting, because at one point in time, like definitely in 2024, we definitely saw the band going in that direction a little bit more with our song Lonely Love that had Little Lotus on it. But then when it came to doing this record, it just didn't eventuate like that, I guess, which was really, really interesting and fun as well. It's fun not to just repeat yourself over and over again, which is mad. One of the funnest things creating the record was I came up with this thing where we write down all the genres, like write down styles, write down BPMs, write down keys, write down tunings, and then you put them in hats, and then you just pull out parts out of the hat, and that becomes a song. Funnily enough, probably like 6 or 7 songs off the record are created like that. So obviously they've been refined after the fact, but that was a great way for us to sort of get in writing mode and not overthink it, because it's like sometimes you can just hit a brick wall if you're trying to think too much about the nuance of a song rather than just making the song. So that was really, really fun. Me and Stan did a lot of songs like that. And then collaborating with a few new people, like doing a writing session with John Lundeen and then another session with Kurt Martin, both fantastic writers, both really, really fun to work with. Definitely helped us get some really cool singles and push some songs in new avenues, like Break the Cycle. Definitely didn't expect John to hop on that one. We just showed him that in the studio at his place in LA, and he just was like, sick, this is the song I like the most, let's work on it. So we did that. Then we did another song called Taste with John as well, which was fun. Then we did My Forever Drug that comes out soon. It will be out by the time this podcast's out. We did that with Kurt Martin, and Kurt was fantastic to work with. Really got along with Kurt, really dig his ear, and he just does amazing stuff with Catch Your Breath and Kami Keo. And then getting Jeff in on to like co-produce and mix and master was fantastic. Just having someone that's like a sounding board or someone I can DM and be like, hey, what do you think of this idea? Hey, we're thinking of splitting the album into 2 albums right now. Can you bring some sanity back into the conversation? Was really, really good to have someone on board like that. It made the process a lot easier for me. It made it harder in regards to like the standard that I was trying to do stuff at was like, all right, Jeff has to be stoked when he gets these stems. He has to be stoked when he gets these files, and he has to be like, sick, this is really good to work with, which was challenging. And there was so many days spent obsessing over guitar stuff because of that. But then also on the positive side of that, being able to work with someone like Jeff, who works with massive bands all the time, and he has absolutely no ego and is just so approachable and so chill to work with, was amazing. It made the process so much easier.
Just going through that whole entire bit, I mean, we're getting a lot of backstory behind the album. We're getting a lot of just intrinsic knowledge of where this album was created. When you brought up the fact that initially there were some songs that had more of this industrial approach to it, there are some songs even that have made the record that you can tell that some of that influence is there. But if you would have kept more of those industrial songs on there after listening through the entire thing, I think it would have definitely taken the perception of the album in a different direction and maybe shoehorned it into a little bit more of an industrial style, a little bit too much compared to where the album was really going and where you needed it to really be put out. Compared to some of the poppier, like, just flows that you've had on some of the stuff in the previous EPs, I know there is a song on here that has a little bit more of this pop-centric kind of flow to it, but it's not necessarily something that is continual. It's not something that can just continually happens all the time. There's a lot of different pieces of where this album can come from, and when you're listening through it, you're seeing where Ocean Sleeper sits in, but you're also seeing a lot of the products of those sessions where you put a bunch of different things in a hat and pulled out and see what, from a writing stance, what different ideas can you essentially put yourselves a little bit restrictions on to try and work with and be creative to make something that has more of that Ocean Sleeper sound to it. Because I'm looking at my notes right now, and it's something where you listen to the single with Break the Cycle, and it has a little bit of this up-tempo cyberpunk feel within that metalcore smash of it, and it really works to show that range. Going to the other single, the titular one, Peace When I'm Dead, I'm looking at that one, and immediately I'm connecting it with the aggressive, unclean vocal nature of bands like Wage War, or a band from upstate New York in the United States called Downswing, which I really, really like. And it really sets in here. But then the other one you brought up with the single that is not out yet, but will be up at the time the episode release, with My Forever Drug. Now that one kind of fits into more of that modern, softer, more emotional metalcore style that has ideas from like Dayseeker or Sleep Theory or Catch Your Breath even. So you're seeing a vast array of different ideas that are happening within these 3 songs as well. And it only gets more expansive from the Ocean Sleeper ideal as you go through the rest of the album, because I was picking up stuff like Architects in there. I picked up Sleep Token in there from a couple of different vocal patterns. I picked up Holding Absence in there as well. So I was picking up like ideas left and right. And now I know you putting all these different ideas in the hat, pulling out and seeing how can we put these 4 different ideas together with our own style and see where the creativity can flow. It gave the album much more of an eclectic taste from how diverse these songs could be while still staying that Ocean Sleeper connectivity in the middle.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I'm glad you can hear the influences in there as well, because it's fun. Like, I mean, there's a song called, I think it's Forgive. It's like deep in the album. It's like way more industrial. The outro of that is definitely me just writing like Sleep Token drums over a breakdown, which is sick because it's so fun. Or Nick Peterson from Northland, both massive influences on that section in general. But yeah, it's just been a blast, especially being able to like add in a lot of different influences from heavy music, as well as some poppier and more industrial influences. Just, yeah, so sick.
Yeah, to look at my notes even for Forgive too, because one song I kind of picked my brain when I was starting to listen to it, had that industrial feel to it, but it had more of this clean, groovier feel to it. it reminded me a lot of I Don't Want the Money by Bad Omens from Death of Peace of Mind in 2022. But it had a little bit of, it had much more of a different ideal behind it. But just the way that it progressed, I'm starting to feel some very similar ideas that worked within that as an influence. So again, every single song, like I could go through, I'm looking at my notes and it's like I'm picking up on different bands and different ideas and different concepts in every single one. But the key is it still stays within the Ocean Sleeper realm all throughout. It's clearly you guys. It's just the ideas that you went through behind these songs are completely reaching to where the potential could truly be. And I think the core of where it comes from is the ability to work so drastically between the different emotional capacities of these songs, from where the vocals come from, whether it's clean to kind of set up a little bit more of this grounded feel, maybe a little bit more of this centered feel within the emotion, to all of a sudden going super heavy with it, with those aggressive uncleans to bring forward this raw aggressive tendency. Because we've seen artists do stuff like that continuously throughout time, especially in the heavier sense. But this one, I don't know how to describe it perfectly, but it's the drastic cut between them in those different types of emotions. It makes sense with how they're written and how they're performed on these songs.
Yeah, definitely dig that. It was an interesting focus point of the record to try and balance those parts well. And also like push Carl to do more clean singing as well. Like on a few songs like Switch or Take Me to the Grave, that has a bit of Carl clean singing, and then some others that have some Carl clean singing, which is awesome. My Forever Drug has some Carl clean singing, which is fun. Just trying to figure out how we like can do more trade-offs, but the inverse. So I do a scream part, he does a clean part, sort of thing, rather than it just always being the same one every time, which is fun to explore.
It also gives the album and the songs a little bit more of a different feel to them, because when it comes to Carl doing some kind of cleans and you doing any kind of uncleans versus what the norm is between the inverse, you're going to get slightly different emotions based on the tonality and based on the patterns that your vocals are primarily more dominant towards. Because your cleans are going to put out the specific sound, let's say, of emotional grief in one way. It's going to hit on a very particular emotion just based on the pattern that your voice is most connected with. But what happens when Carl does it, that particular way of storytelling, that exact way and that emotion might not hit nearly as much, but do it slightly different, you're going to hit emotionally in a much different way, just slightly tweaked. It's kind of cool to be able to bounce back and forth between that with you two guys.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so fun. It's also like just fun not pigeonholing either of us into a certain role, which has been something we've been trying to push harder, and we'll push even more in the next record as well. So it's like, just like growing, I guess, as a band.
Oh, absolutely. So with the new album coming out, there's typically a question I've been asking on this podcast that I love to ask. And it's, we'll take a look at the songs that are on the album. Let's take the singles and pull them out, because at the time of release of this episode, all the singles have probably been released at this point in time. So everyone has a chance to listen to them. But it's the non-singles that I'm the most curious about. And I'm not going to ask you for your favorite, because of all the time and effort you put in this, that's like asking you guys to pick a favorite child. And we're not doing that. But
That one's easy. That one's easy for me as well.
Okay.
The favorite.
All right, screw it then. Which one is your favorite? I'm not going to go with the other question. We can go, this is easy. Now we're going to put you on the spot, baby.
I want to hear the rest of the question. But my favorites off rip are Every Part of Me and Someone Better. They're my two favorites.
Okay. Then
yeah.
But the typical question I ask is, out of the non-singles, which one are you most excited for people to hear on release day, and why?
Every Part of Me, for sure. That's a banger. I'd really like that song. I think that was one of the earlier songs we wrote for the record. We wrote a few in a first batch that were a little bit sort of like more open feeling, like less busy, less guitar-y, I guess. Every Part of Me is one that I've always loved heaps. I've always thought it was the best song. I think I can speak for Stan when I say that as well. That's his favorite as well. And I'm really, really keen to hear what people think of that song, because as a record opener, I feel like it needs to be really strong and like set an atmosphere and vibe. And I think that song the whole way throughout has a really good atmosphere. It feels melancholic. It feels dramatic. The end of it feels really emotional and down. And initially we had like a dialogue over the end. I pulled like a dialogue from Requiem for a Dream that fit really well over the top of it, but then kind of figured that we probably wouldn't be able to get that cleared. So we took it out. But yeah, with that dialogue in there, it makes so much sense. And at the time when we were doing that song, we were really into Blade Runner 2049. So I've even got a fan edit of that song over Blade Runner 2049 as well, because it like fits that whole cyberpunky sort of thing, which we were down the rabbit hole at the time.
When it comes to every part of me, because I'm taking a look at my notes again as well, that was one where, especially from the album opener, the way that the progression works up until that bridge and that breakdown, the emotions on the way it's presented. This is where that massive contrast really works out, because the emotions feel a little bit more filtered. They feel a little bit more processed through. You think cyberpunk, like very processed through a computer, very technical. So it feels like it's filtered through something. But then when the breakdown hits and that roughness comes in, you go from that more filtered, maybe more smoothed out emotional tendency to something much more aggressive, much more raw on the snap. But it's on that snap and on that split that makes this make sense and makes you hook into this album from the jump. It's that type of storytelling, that type of emotional progression that really works out well throughout the entire album. And it's put, I think, maybe to its, I'm not going to say it's best, but I think it's put to its most noticeable and most like, oh, I feel this completely right from the get-go with every part of me.
Do you have a standout song that you've been digging since you've heard the link? That's not a single. It's not a single.
Well, I hope it's not a single when it comes out, but it's a song that we have not spoken about yet, and that is song number 8, Promise.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's on the it could be a single by the time this comes out. It could not be a single. Yeah, we're internally talking about what the last single will be and like what the feature track will be when the album drops, and that's definitely been at the forefront of the conversation. That and Skin Deep are the two that we're like, all right, these both make sense as a lead track, with Promise probably being the one that's like winning that conversation currently. Just, yeah, it's so fun. It's got some interesting moments in there. Like that song in particular was probably one of the most Ocean Sleeper in regards to how it got finished, because like previously in the past when I produce our records, like I'll go down a rabbit hole before the song's submitted and like just remove sections and change the structure of the song. And like, I know Lonely Love had a breakdown in there for ages. And like, before we submitted it, I just took it out and we're like, sick, this is the song. So that one actually, because we were at the back end of the record and Carl and I were tracking his vocals, so I had him for like 2 or 3 days. I was like, we don't have a solid bridge on this whole record, so we need to write a bridge that's a little bit bigger and cooler. So I ended up writing that whole bridge and guitar solo section last minute. Everything had already been tracked, and I was just like, sick, this needs something fresh. So I ended up retracking a bunch of guitars for that bridge, ripping in a really fun, quick guitar solo, which was awesome. Redid all the production in the song as well, because at the time I was listening to Armo heaps, and I was like, I want this to feel more thought out, because I feel like Bring Me in particular have such great depth to their post-production. And I was like, I need to like figure out how to capture this better, because I really want it to have depth to it and feel like it's not like some guy that has like a surface level understanding of like electronic music. It's like diving deeper into it. So that song is a really fun one. And it's also like, I think it has no breakdown. Like I think that song has no breakdown. Yeah. I don't think so. I think that solo takes place of the breakdown.
The solo takes place in the breakdown, but there is a massive scream over it that gives it more of this great post-hardcore style to it. And that's really what stuck out to the song to me overall, because I'm just taking a look at my notes on Promise. I'm like, the song opens with this more up-tempo style of programming, but a grittier style of post-hardcore, making it feel like a metalcore version of Holding Absence, which absolutely has me hooked. Because when I listen to Holding Absence, when I listen to what Lucas and the guys are able to do on that kind of a music, it's very emotional. It's very storytelling, but it's also very much just forceful and in your face with the ability that is there, but it's something that's also welcoming to you as well. And you guys essentially, like, I feel like this had to be one of those take out of a hat moments, because I'm picking that up, and then I'm picking up different vocal tones and patterns that you could see from Sleep Token. And it's when you get to that bridge and you get to see the guitars getting much more aggressive, it's perfectly placed to show that emotional storytelling that essentially allows you to fall into yourself and explore overall. So it's something where just the way that it's story told, the way that it's sonically put together, you're able to either emotionally put this outward and really explore outward. But the way I took it was you're able to explore more inward, because whenever I listen to that style of music, I'm typically looking to more an introspective purpose. And that one really took the cake in that whole entire regard. Plus, having it be more up tempo gave it a specific drive that allowed that guitar solo towards the end of the song to really not only hit, but seemed like it needed to be a part of it, and not like something that was forced in there. That's always a huge key, if you can have that through line throughout the song, even if the song goes in so many different directions. If it feels like we're going from one spot to the next and we can absolutely follow along that path, we're there.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny, because the start of that song was me trying to write like the start of like a Throne song. Do you know, there's like a Throne song that starts on like a program sort of drum beat, sort of trap thing that rips. And I was like, sick, this is amazing. And at the time I was listening to it heaps, and I was like, kind of tried to capture a similar energy. And then the song just didn't end up being a heavy song. So it sounds like no one would go, oh, sick, this is a Throne ripoff, because it doesn't sound at all like Throne. So it's like, it's a fun blend. And then with the solo, I feel like the song like crescendos at the right spot, which I think is really important. And I think with this song in particular, like, it's our best pre-chorus ever. Like, the pre-chorus feels like it's going to the chorus, you're getting taken there. Yeah, it really stoked with that song. Stoked you dig it as well. Stoked you dig it.
There is no way I would have thought this was inspired by On the Verge by Throne. There's no way I would have ever thought that. Because when you said because when you said the song, you're like, yeah, more of that like programmed drum beat. I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Because I probably listened to that song. I probably last Saturday, and probably will listen to it tomorrow morning while lifting. So yeah.
It is a fantastic gym song. That song rips, man. That song rips so hard. It was so funny. Yeah, so funny that that's the inspiration for the start of that song. And then it's like, it goes into this like sort of holding absence, day seekery, bring me thing. And yeah, it's fun. Songwriting is such a blast.
Never would have guessed that, but that is one hell of a story and one hell of a way. So for every musician and songwriter listening, yeah, you can have an idea of where where you want to take a song, and it could go completely another direction. And if there's anything you should do, is let the song take you in that direction. Don't try and force it.
The other part for that as well is like the inspiration for the big held out chords is like Linkin Park and also Nymphetamine by Cradle of Filth and Rammstein. So it's like this weird amalgamation of stuff that no one would be like, oh, sick, that's Nymphetamine. But like when I was talking to Jeff, who worked on it, like the big inspiration was trying to get that big sort of new metal-y heavy, like Cradle of Filth guitar tone on the chords, just because they're big rung out chords and they're not really doing much. So the tone needs to be interesting, I guess. So yeah, a mixed bag of influences on that.
There's a mixed bag of influence. If that's the way that Promise was kind of put together, I mean, I'm more curious to see what would come out in a deluxe version. Beyond that, though, what would come out in like a write-up of where all these songs started and where all the inspirations came from, because we're going to be like, how in the hell did you get inspired by, again, Throne to create Promise, which has nothing to do with it in any capacity? But hey, it works. It works. I don't argue with the results here.
I was listening to a little bit of an interview with Zach Wilde the other day, and he's going about how he wrote like this Aussie riff, and like he plays Foxy Lady and then plays this Aussie riff, and you're like, oh my god, they're the same thing. They're so similar, but when you listen to them back to back as a listener, you just like, they're different songs. So it's figuring out like where you can draw inspiration and then taking it somewhere new is so fun, especially because like listeners don't think about that. Like they don't, like at least a lot of listeners that I speak to don't think about that. They don't go, oh, this person was inspired by Nymphetamine for these chords and it turned out like Promise. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like you got to really do some songwriter backflips to get there, which is fun.
But that's what makes great songwriting is when you're able to take inspiration from one thing, do backflips, side flips, potentially run through a wall, break your wrist, and then have to write that with a broken wrist. But that's where the creativity comes from. And that's where we get some of the great music that we have today. And that's where we also get the music that inspires so many others. I mean, I still remember it was a interview with Dave Grohl. I think he was talking with Pharrell Williams. He was talking about him being a drummer in Nirvana and how he was the most basic drummer because most of the stuff that he took that created the backbone of what grunge drumming was straight from disco. And then you listen to some of the songs that he puts out there, you're like, the fuck are you doing, man? Holy shit.
It's so sick. It's so sick, man. It's like, I just love it. It's so fun.
Next thing you know, the Gap Band's going to be inspiring Ocean Sleeper in 2029, 50 years later. Who knew?
Straight up, fingers crossed.
Hey, it could happen. Who knows? We could see disco metalcore come out of nowhere. It could be a huge hit. Hey, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be.
That throws me back to like the attack breakdowns of like the synthcore ones where they're doing a little disco bit in the background and you got the little, that was fun. That was a fun era of metalcore.
That was like 2008, 2009. It was like when they were doing that, or like the first We Came as Romans album would have a lot of synths in it as well, like that. And that was a good time.
Yeah, dude. That was like, especially We Came as Romans. Like they had like, for me, it was like 2 back-to-back records that like I rinsed those records so much. I listened to those records so much. They're just such a huge influence and I just love them. They're just, there's some amazing records.
Oh yeah, there definitely are. I got the freaking Dark Bloom banner in the back right now. So
banger.
Oh yeah, we're not holding up anymore. But when it comes to the rest of, we got the album coming out. We got tours coming up for Ocean Sleeper. Anything else we can expect from you guys throughout the rest of 2026 that we might not necessarily know about or that you could tease? And hopefully it means a Milwaukee show on the Never Tell Run, but we'll see.
Fingers crossed, Milwaukee show. That's what we're all gunning for. We're all trying for that. Just as a little tour warm-up show. Not sure how it'll land. Not sure how we make that work logistically, but I really have my fingers crossed and I'm really hoping for that. Apart from that, like when this comes out, probably a new single or like a lead song from the record. There could be promise. And then, not an insane amount past touring. And like, I think we're currently in the works to do another Australian tour next year, which will be a regional tour. Hopefully working on some stuff to come back to the US as well next year, which is the dream. Really just trying to grind international touring. Probably November, December, February we'll probably start on working on new material as well, just so we can keep the fires burning, which is insane to say when the record isn't even out yet, but it's like we really want to be ahead of the curve on new stuff. So it's like when the record comes out, if regardless of how it's received, hopefully it's received really well. But regardless of how it's received, we want to just keep kind of grinding away in the background, and that new music can sit on the back burner for as long as it needs if the record goes well, or we can just roll straight into another cycle. Because like, I think hopefully by the time next year comes out, we'll be doing this thing full time, like, because we all have jobs currently and we'll probably still have jobs then, but hopefully the record goes well enough where we can dedicate some more time to be able to, smash touring, smash writing, and just really focus on grinding it.
Well, there's 2 things about that. One is, if this was 6 years ago and you were like, we're going to be working on new music and the album isn't even out yet, how crazy is that? I would say, that's crazy. But doing this for 7.5 years, I'm like, no, that's just normal for musicians at this point in time. So it's not necessarily crazy. The creative juices are still flowing. But number 2 is, with you guys coming to the US, and like we spoke about, if that first show is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you guys are flying into Chicago. I mean, Milwaukee, we're especially from the airport, because it's probably O'Hare. We're probably looking like 80 miles at the most. And JJ over at the Basement Collective, come on, man, we want to see it. Let's get in the warm up. Come on, why not?
Straight up, please, JJ. It makes so much sense. Like we're really gunning for it. Like the pros and cons of being DIY and self-managed is like, Carl can only deal with so many things at the one time. So after we've gotten through this little hump of doing our album rollout and everything like that, hopefully be into planning that show and trying to punch it out, because Milwaukee last time was amazing. It was just it was so sick. Like, I don't know, you get that feeling at some shows where you're like, oh, this is why this is what can happen when people turn up to show, and you're like, this is crazy. And yeah, it was just the best feeling ever. And I think I was really sick at that show as well. So I was like, this is amazing. I can feel stoked and still feel sick. This is like, yeah, plot twist. Need to come back to Milwaukee. Bad.
Plot twist, and well, we'll take an even further plot twist beyond that at the end of this episode. But I got one more question for Ionei before we go. It's something that I've been asking on this podcast for 3 years at the end of every single episode, and I keep doing it because it's so much fun. It's a way for us as music lovers to get to know more of your music and for you to get support the music you love. I got a limit to 3, so we're not here all day. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
Our homies band Outloved. Love that band. I produce and co-write all their stuff with Jaden. He's a legend. Jaden's also our content guy, so you got to check them out. Another small band from Australia called Nightlight. They're really fun. I produce all their stuff. This is just shameless self-promotion at this point. And then our homies in Sydney, Deficit. They are a really good band. Really, really heavy, really hard. They're all Australian bands as well, so it's like, I mean, there's heaps of international friends I can shout out that rip as well. But yeah, Outloved, Nightlight, and Deficit, all rippers, like just all make great music, all in it for the right reasons, all so stoked to be doing music as well.
The answers that you gave is the reason for that question, because those are artists that even though you've worked with them and it seems like a shameless plug, I haven't heard of any of them yet. But now I have, and now I get to go listen to them. So that's the beauty of it.
They're a blast. Deficit is so good if you're like into really heavy stuff. Nightlight is sick if you're into like more of your like party metal, electric cowboy sort of thing. And then Outloved is definitely kind of that Caskets, Holding Absence, modern rock thing with a bit of Beartooth and a bit of heavy in there as well. So sick.
Alrighty, perfect. Well, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. It was truly an honor to have you, truly a pleasure to have you. We're going to do this episode with 3 things. So first things first, when it comes to Ocean Sleeper, the brand new Peace When I'm Dead comes out on August 21st, 2026. They'll be on tour in the US, Never Tell, and they will be on tour in Europe in 2027 with Catch Your Breath. So be sure to go check them out. Be sure to go follow along with them. Do not miss out on it. Go to the description of the podcast where it says find Ocean Sleeper online, links, labels for everything for social media, YouTube, where you can stream the album, where you can listen to all the music that's out there, where you can go see and play live, and of course you can go pick up some merch as well to support them, even if you can't go and see them play live. So we're giving you all the tools, everything. All the links are down there. All you gotta do is click and go. Now it's time for number 2. And typically when it comes to number 2, I usually make one promise when I have an artist on that I truly enjoy having on, and I would continue to support in the future. But I gotta add a little caveat to this one. So the typical promise is when I get to you perform live for the first time, I will come and find you. I will come and say hello to you. But the real promise is that first round's on me. However, the caveat to this one is because of an episode that I recorded the day before I recorded the one with you, there was something that came up where I actually, when the episode gets released, I have to not only work with a specific label on something, but I have to message JJ from the Basement Collective about it. So I may send him the raw file of this episode before it's even full and be like, hey, Ocean Sleeper was talking about how much they love the Milwaukee show at X-Ray, and if you can help them get a warm-up show before their tour with Never Tell, they're in, so go.
Hell yeah. That'd be mad. That'd be so sick. Please do God.
And well, the funny thing too is I'll even say I promise I would send this to you at the end of I promised them I would send you this at the end of it. Go watch it, like timestamp this. I told him I would do it.
Hell yeah.
I'm not sure how he's gonna take that one, but we'll find out. That's the key.
Yeah. I've got my fingers crossed. The last show was just so good there. Just so good. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what we can make happen. Now it's time for number 3. I cannot end this episode by saying goodbye. That is way too final because I would love to have you back on the podcast again in the future with more new music. Beyond that, though, man, we got to make that promise come to life and come to fruition. So goodbye is way too final. We'll end this by saying, I'll see you later.
See you soon, brother.
Woo! I'll focus on an interview with Ionei from Ocean Sleeper. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. And I'm going to go in a different direction on this because we opened the episode before we hit the record button talking about that show they did at X-Ray Arcade in Cudahy, Wisconsin, which is just outside of Milwaukee in 2025. And you saw how that went throughout the entirety of the episode. It got brought up again and again, and they want to come back. They want to play that show. They want to do it as a tune-up show for their tour with Nevertell, and yeah, let's make that happen. When I said I was going to send it to JJ, I did. So what I want to say about this one is, for all the artists that are out there, please consider always coming to Milwaukee. You know, it's very easy to skip us because the city of Chicago is 90 miles south of where Milwaukee is. So it's not that hard to get to when it comes to that. I know radius clauses are in effect. Plus, Chicago is the third largest market in the United States in terms of population. Beyond that, though, Chicago has a fantastic rock and metal culture that's behind their rock and metal scene behind there as well. This is in no way, shape, or form a diss on Chicago because I go down there for shows pretty consistently. Maybe I haven't gone down as many as I have in the past, but between like 2022 and 2025, I've been going down all the time for shows. Whether it was that I'm going to go through shout out some Chicago venues like the Concord, like Bottom Lounge. Oh, I love going to Bottom Lounge. Like what they've done with the Salt Shed out there. I think it's fantastic. There's a lot of other venues I know I haven't spoken about. I just want to name a couple of them. But Milwaukee is kind of got the same exact thing, just we're 90 miles north. So for the smaller artists that are out there, you know, the ones that are filling 250, 300 cap rooms, talk to JJ at the Basement Collective, get an X-Ray Arcade, play a couple of shows there. If you're getting bigger, play at the Rave, play the Basement, play at the bar where we can, you know, stage dive and have some fun. I've seen Gideon at the bar and it's been nuts. Seen Belushi Speedball at the bar and it's been nuts. Play the Basement. If you're getting bigger, play the middle stage. I've seen so many bands play the middle stage. We Came as Romans is one of them. I've seen so many bands play the ballroom as well. My favorites in Rise Against, Hollywood Undead. I've seen Knock Loose up there. I've seen Motionless in White up there. I've seen Ice Nine Kills up there. I missed that Day to Remember show up there because that one I missed, but the one I broke my finger at, no, I didn't miss that one. But it's always a great time. The energy is always high, and if Ionei talked heavily about it and talked a lot about it, consider routing the show through Milwaukee. I want to thank Ionei for being on the podcast today. When it comes to Ocean Sleep for the brand new Peace When I'm Dead, which comes out on August 21st, go to podcast links, labels for everything of where you can find them online, where you can watch your music videos, where you can go and stream all the music, get all the music, where you can go find them, perform live, and where you can get some merch if you are so inclined to. You can also find us online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, links to your podcast below. Hit the subscribe button right down here. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the follow, subscribe button every single on Spotify and podcast. It every single Tuesday and Thursday, whether you want the video form or the audio form. Hit the like button on these episodes and put a comment down in the comments. You've been to a show in Milwaukee before, guys? Let us know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts because I'm still here. Yeah, even though I've probably seen in previous episodes over since August, the new look in the new studio, but this one was shot in the old one. But I'm still in Milwaukee. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ionei. Hope to see you at X-Ray Arcade in 2026. And on that note, that's going to be for me. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes. Big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!